Bitter criticism. The the most hated program on internet. I don't know. No, this is a fictional program. Like this guy Hassan Akram just mocked me because I don't have any viewers. But this is just for me. This is just for me and YouTube subtitles. And Hassan Akram, of course, but he will not see me, isn't it? I don't care. I will see La Voz de los que Sobran anyway when I could, anytime. Tonight we're gonna read some. Again, this is like Russia Today news. This is the another Russia Today news. This is like I don't know how to say this word. It's like a franchise. Yeah, we are a franchise from Russia Today. And what I found in Russia Today website rt.com, it was this interesting but strange topic called Africa. There's a whole topic about Africa on Russia Today, and I guess it's interesting because but I know that well, watching Russia Today TV, they talk a lot about Africa, and looks like Russia is kind of lonely, isn't it, in the world? But African people support them, or there are a lot of interest between Russia and Africa, and that's it. So there's right here in the Russia Today site, there's a whole topic about Africa, and there's a lot of news about Africa. It's like Africa, Russia is like a hub for Africa, or like a friend, isn't it? Russia and Africa looks like they're friends, and personally, I have interest in Africa because I knew some guy from Mozambique and a lot of kind of tourists from Mozambique when I was in Brazil, and they are nice people. Actually, they are very different people. Firstly, they are different because they are unaware. They are unaware, like I mean Chileans and maybe Americans. We are like hysterical. We are neurotic, so the Western civilization is like very neurotic, but these guys from Africa, they are not. They just don't care. They just don't think. They just don't have this neurosis, and that's why I was very glad to see that people dancing or just being, I guess they were from Mozambique or Guinea-Bissau, I don't know. Well, and when I was watching this, reading these news, these titles, I saw some topics from some titles from gayness. Gay is a topic in Russia. I know that because of World Cup, isn't it? They were against gay LGBT community and so on. And I don't care much, but I don't know. This is not a huge topic for me. But right here there are some news from this. Look, and I'm not against, but I don't support them. I do think there are a lot of more important things in life or in life, I don't know. But right here they're talking about gayness. Look, African nation poised to adopt death penalty for gay sex. African nation, which Uganda. A controversial bill has passed the Ugandan parliament, making aggravated homosexuality as a capital offense. In Uganda is a Nilotic country. Uganda's parliament has voted overwhelmingly in favor of a bill making certain homosexual acts a capital crime. The measure has now been sent on to President Yoweri Museveni, who is expected to sign it despite vocal foreign opposition. Yeah, this is I was talking about the foreign opposition, but I don't know what is this foreign opposition. All but two of the countries, 389 MPs. MPs will be, I don't know, like law. I don't know, something about laws, isn't it? Lend their support to measures during a legislative session on Tuesday night. The bill imposes the death penalty for aggravated homosexuality, as well as life imprisonment for recruitment, promoting, and funding of homosexual activities. All quoting aggravated homosexuality activities. Fox Odoi Oyelowo, one of the two legislators to oppose the measure, describes it as ill-conceived with unconstitutional provisions in comments cited by The Guardian. Not only does it not introduce any value addition to existing law, but it reversed the gains registered in the fight against gender-based violence and criminalized individuals, where it should focus on contact that contravenes all known legal norms, the lawmaker said. You know what I interesting here is to know the comparison with Russia. This so far is a news only about Africa, but everybody knows that Russia is a very conservative country on these topics. Numerous foreign LGBT advocacy groups have also condemned the measure, calling it hate legislation and discriminatory, and vowing to fight it. A previous draft of the bill introduced in 2019 called to the death penalty for all gay sex, and the practice has been illegal since Uganda was a British colony. Museveni lashed out at Western governments last week for threatening sanctions in response to the anti-LGBT legislation, calling their effort to impose foreign cultural norms on African societies hypocritical. Homosexuals are deviations from the normal, he said, explaining there was a need to answer whether nature or nurture decided as individuals' orientation. I don't know what is nurture, nature or nurture. We need a medical opinion on that, he insisted. The US threatened to withhold aid to Uganda in 2014 when the nation adopted a law punishing aggravated homosexuality. Withhold an offense that includes gay sex while HIV positive or with an individual under 18 years old with life in prison, leading a wave of international years old with life in prison. Life in prison, yeah. That's pretty drastic, isn't it? Life in prison for, I don't know, leading a wave of international opposition that resulted in the legislation being struck down on a technicality. Uganda, a major Christian nation, is one of 37 African countries to ban homosexuality. Nigeria, Sudan, and Mauritania also punish the practice with death in some cases. Well, it did not comment anything about the opinion, the relation, the Russian culture with this kind of news. But you know what I thought? That as I was living in Brazil, and look, I don't know what the correct answer is. You know, you I think that this subject of freedom or personal choices, you know, individual, how to say, there's a word for this, individual freedom, something like that. This is important for everybody, but it's not the most important thing. Like, what is more important? The economy. Look, the U.S. threatened to withhold aid to Uganda in 2014. I guess the whole the more important thing here is that Uganda is a very poor country, is a Nilotic country, and as they are very poor, they don't have development. And what is more important with this relation of development and the aid that the rich countries give or give not, that this kind of aid does not work. This kind of aid, they don't develop any country, you know. This kind of a debt trap. The Uganda is now getting aid. They are getting slaves. They are getting financial slaves. And under poverty, like Uganda are, they tend to be conservators, you know. They tend to be haters. And this is not about sex, it's about hate. They don't just hate gay sex, they hate everything. I was living in some part of Brazil when people were also very poor, and they were homophobic too, but not just homophobic, but lot of types of phobias, you know, phobias. And I guess all these kind of phobias, they came from undevelopment. That's it. This is not a homophobic country. It's a poor country, you know. And there are a lot of Manichaeism about the rich countries doing this kind of punctual, specific condemnation for just this kind of law, you know, because they have all the problems you can even imagine in Uganda, you know. That's not the only problem. That's the big issue here, I guess. So interesting. There was a lot of news about this, like this. Look, this was from yesterday. Court revokes citizenship of gay couple's son. Namibia's Supreme Court ruled that a violation of the Citizenship Act made it unconstitutional to grant citizenship by descent. Maybe, just maybe, Russia today is playing the woke game, isn't it? I don't know, they have this. Maybe, just maybe, I don't know. Even Russia, they are trying to be more westernized, Western. I don't know, more like the West, because all that stuff about the Olympics, I guess it was the Olympics when Russia banned some LGBT flags, So West, what's the truth about the gay agenda, the LGBT agenda, is that all the countries in the world, not just the West, but all the countries, but the West civilization, they have a lot of problems, and they are problems, financial problem, economic problems, reforms, social reforms, a lot of problems, inflation, but these problems are too big, they are too difficult to resolve, are too difficult even to talk about. So why these people from these countries do? They fight for little problems like gay, because gay rights are big are everything for gay people, but gay people are always very few. They are always very few. They are like 5% in the most. In the bigger estimate, they are just 5%, and that's it. So West, what West do is support gay people and talk a lot about this, but it will be always a small problem in the West on any place. So I guess what Russia today is doing is copying this kind of, and they are, I don't know, they looks like they are saying what Russia today is saying is that, look, we are homophobics. Is our culture. We don't tolerate gay people or anyway. But Africa is worst. Maybe that's what Russia is doing. I don't know. I don't know if this is real journalism, because there's not the real journalism. This is don't exist. All this is propaganda. Yeah, the bitter criticism, isn't it? Look, Russia Today's propaganda. This will be the title of this video. Russia Today it is propaganda. This will be my biggest video, isn't it? Because everybody hates Russia now. So as I was saying, Namibia. The Supreme Court of Namibia has overturned a lower court's decision to grant citizenship to the son of a gay couple who was born to a surrogate mother in neighboring South Africa. Philip Liu, a Namibian, and his Mexican partner Guillermo Delgado are listed as parents of the South African birth certificate of 4-year-old Yona. So this is a man-gay couple who are parents from Yona. They adopted her, I guess. I don't know. In late 2021, the Namibian High Court granted the child nationality after the Ministry of Home Affairs denied it on technical grounds. The government filed an appeal arguing that the bird had not been registered with the Namibian authorities within a year, as required by law. Look, the most interesting thing I read still now is that there was a Namibian guy and a Mexican guy. They were a couple. Imagine that. That's funny. A Namibian guy with a Mexican guy. and they have, well, this interesting, culturally, isn't it? But not just interesting because of culture, because of the Mexicanity, and then I don't know much about Namibian. The Supreme Court upheld the government's appeal in its ruling on Monday, saying the High Court had misdirected itself. Since the bill was not registered in terms of Citizenship Act, it was not competent for the High Court to grant the relief if did not to the responded, the court said, according to AFP. Well, the normal reaction should be, well, these these gays, they are adopting a baby girl, and that's absolutely right, because there's a lot of war in Africa, That will be the normal reaction. But this all gives, I guess, all this news from Africa is propaganda, because they are trying to wash their images, But I don't know. The Supreme Court further explained that the Ministry of Home Affairs was right in not granting the child citizenship by descendant because there was not compliance with the Citizenship Act. The Namibian ministry had also previously demanded a DNA test to prove that one of the child's parents was Namibian. The couple refused to undergo the test. Yeah, this is stupid, isn't it? It's like Russians saying that Africans are all stupid. Or I don't know, there's a lot of taboo in Africa. Well, what I said minutes ago is that when you have a poor country like African countries, they have all the taboos in the world, all the taboos. That's what poverty makes to people. They make people stupid, and a lot of stupid, basically. Yeah, they like try to avoid the question, avoid the problems. Try to forbid people to do whatever they want. It is terrible. It's terrible to live in, but just because of poverty. The latest court decision has been met with disappointment by the couple, who argued that the judiciary should prioritize the best interest of the child. One of Jonas' parents, Lul, told the media that the ruling by the Supreme Court was just another way of frustrating people that don't have full access to equality, frustrating them with bureaucratic procedural matters. That don't have full access to equality. Jonas submitted by Supreme Court. Looks like Lul Lul want to keep Jonas, or it was the Namibian guy. I lost myself here. Homosexuality is still illegal in Namibia, although 1927 sodomy laws is rarely enforced today. South Africa has been the only African country to allow same-sex marriage since 2006. I guess Russia today is trying to make friends, make Western friends. That it was strange for me, because they say that this is about Africa. It could be about Africa, but it's more like, I don't know, human rights. I don't know, social freedoms. Yeah. And more news here. Look, I told you there was a lot of news about this topic, about how Africa is a bad And was strange because, as far as I knew, Russia was a friend of Africa. I don't know. I don't know. And what you do with your friends is try to hide their defects. You know, the you don't blame the defects of your friends, isn't it? But and more another news about the same thing. Ugandan president lashes out at West for promoting LGBT rights in Africa. So what Russia today is doing here? They are supporting West, but they are kind of, looks like Russia, at least the discourses of Putin and so on, they never wanted to actually invade Ukraine. Of course, after the invasion, they accused it, they attacked it, they made some discourses, aggressive discourses, but they always talk about West as their partners. You know, they never actually. I don't know. They never actually were. They never were so aggressive against West. So, but what they're doing here is blaming Africa for being. What they are doing is saying that they are not so much homophobic like Africa. Despite the threat of sanctions, the parliament is set to vote on anti-LGBT bill. Western countries should stop wasting the time of humanity by trying to impose their beliefs and practices, including homosexuality, on other people, Ugandan President Yoweri Museveni has said. The president of the East African country made the comments in a parliamentary address on March 16th as lawmakers prepared to vote on anti-LGBT bill. LGBTQ, the queer. Although homosexuality is already illegal in Uganda, a bill introduced in early March and set to be debated this week with a vote as early as Tuesday proposes harshest penalties for promoting LGBTQ rights and activities. Museveni has said that Western threats of sanctions against African countries that oppose homosexuality are hypocritical. Europeans and other groups marry cousins and near relatives. Here, marrying in one's clan is taboo. Should be imposed sanctions on them for marrying relatives. This is not our job, he stated. This is so tricky, isn't it? All these things about the US cut off aid to Uganda in 2014 and canceled a military exercise in response to a law that imposes prison terms up to life for aggravated homosexuality, which includes homosexual sex with a minor or while HIV positive. Project affected by the cuts includes funding for a 2.4 million Ugandan community policing program, which has stopped following a police raid on a US-funded health program at Makerere University, Reuters reported. Uganda is not the only African country known for its anti-LGBTQ policies. A bill called the Promotion of Proper Human Sexual Rights and Ghanaian Family Values was introduced in Ghana's parliament in August 2021. The proposed legislation aims to restrict LGBTQ communities and activities while also promoting legitimate sexual rights and Ghanaian, yeah, Ghanaian family values. It increases punishment for cross-dressing, public displays of affection, and other behaviors, and also makes advocating for LGBTQ rights on social media or other online platforms illegal. In Nigeria, Sudan, and Mauritania, the death penalty can be imposed for sexual relations between people of the same sex. Yeah, this is like the same news, but who knows? This is an anthropological problem, because every country in the world, every people have their issues. I don't know, the development of there's no right or wrong here. Like I guess even Saudi Arabia, they must be a lot. No, to say the truth, when I was watching the last World Cup in Qatar, I listen, I hear some comment that in Qatar all these Arab people, these Muslims, they are gay too. But I don't know, maybe I guess in the Arab world is not legal to be all this stuff. But who knows, dude? Maybe Russia is doing here is talking about some countries in Africa that are not aligned with them. They are saying that they are too homophobic, and maybe countries that Russia do have partnership, they are saying that those countries are great, But it was interesting. It was strange. But we had a lot of news from Africa, and that was all about LGBTQ in Africa. Well, if you're gay, don't go to Africa. That's my advice for you. If you are gay, forget it about Africa, because I'd say nigga, isn't it? But yeah, nigger is a ugly word. It's a bad word, but that nigga will kill you, dude. I don't know what to read anymore. Algeria caution against Western. Yeah, this is interesting. I spent so much minutes reading comment LGBT news, but there was a lot today in Africa, and I don't know. Just because Russia it is homophobic too, This is, I just talking about what I think about all that. It's just propaganda, Russian propaganda. Look, this is energy news. Algeria cautions against Western oil price cap. The measure could cause supply disruptions, the country's energy minister warns. The Western price ceiling on Russian oil will spark uncertainty and disrupt global trade flows, the Algerian energy minister warned on Wednesday. The OPEC Plus decision to cut output by 2 million barrels per day last November was designed to bring stability to global oil markets. Mohamed Arkab noted in an interview with information company Energy Intelligence. The official said unilateral actions by the West to limit the price of crude could undermine the efforts of the Oil Producers Alliance and bring more uncertainty to the sector. Western sanctions on Russia seaborne crude shook effect last December. They banned tankers and fly the flag of any EU member state from carrying crude originating in Russia, unless it is sold to the buyer at or under an agreed price of 60 per barrel. A similar embargo, accompanied by price caps, was imposed on Russian refined petroleum products in February. In response, Moscow banned sales of its crude and petroleum products to a nation supporting the scheme. The Algerian minister's remarks echoed a recent warning from Saudi Arabia's energy minister, Prince Abdulaziz bin Salman, probably a gay. Look, we have a picture here. All these Muslim guys are all of them are gay. If a price cap were to be imposed on Saudi oil exports, we will not sell oil to any country that imposes a price cap on our supply, and we will reduce oil production, and I will not be surprised if others should do the same, Bin Salman told Energy Intelligence on Tuesday. In February, Russia announced plans to voluntarily reduce oil production in March by 500,000 barrels per day as it halts sales to buyers that comply with the Western imposed price ceiling. A number of economists have repeatedly warned that Western sanctions on Russian crude oil only further tighten global supplies. Algeria was being an OPEC member since 1969. The North African country has the 10th largest proven natural gas reserves globally and is the world's 4th largest gas exporter, with major pipeline links to Europe. It also ranks 16 in proven oil reserves and exports roughly 60% of its total production. Production of what? Looks like Algeria is a nice country, but I don't know what happens to. I will search about Algeria. It's not of course, it's not the poorer country in Africa, but it's not a great country either. I don't know. And this, I will search another news here. I will read again about energy. Missing uranium found Libyan general. The radioactive ore was allegedly stolen from a warehouse before it was abandoned near the border with Chad. They have some barrels of uranium near to Chad. Roughly 2.5 tons of uranium reported missing from a site in Libya has been recovered by armed forces based in the country's east, a military spokesman said, just one day after the UN's nuclear agency sounded alarms over the lost material. A media official for the Libyan National Army, LNA, General Khaled Malhou, said the 10 missing barrels of uranium ore concentrate were found just 5 kilometers, 3 miles from the warehouse. They were originally stored in southern Libya near the Chadian border. You know, this Libya, it will be a chaos. I guess I will. I have another news from Libya, and all this about stolen uranium barrels is because of the chaos there. I guess. A media official just read this. Yeah. Mahjou speculated that rebels from the neighboring state may have stolen the large blue drums from the warehouse, believing they held weapons or ammunition, but they later ditched them. That's funny, isn't it? Rebels. Who are these rebels in Libya? Uh, Libya is a chaos, dude. Don't go to Libya, because Libya is absolutely chaos with a lot of rebels, a lot of absolutely chaos right now. Rebels stealing barrels of, they don't even know what they are stealing, you know. and this is all U.S. fault, you know. Everything all this is about. The fault is the U.S. American fault. The International Atomic Energy Agency, I don't know how to say anyway, the United Nations main nuclear watchdog first reported the uranium ore missing on Wednesday following an inspection the day prior. In a statement obtained by Reuters, AEE, that thing, head Rafael Grossi said the material was not present at its declared location, and that the agency will investigate further to determine how it was removed from the warehouse. I have to learn how to say the letters. I know how to say E. E is not E. A. Y. I guess it's IAEA. Said it was aware of the announcement from the LNA General and was still working to confirm the information. Though 10 barrels were said to be missing, a video shared by LNA appeared to show 18 containers in total, according to Reuters. It is unclear what explains the discrepancy. Headed by Commander Khalifa Haftar, the LNA serves as the armed forces for a government body based in Tobruk, and does not recognize the authority of the UN-backed interim state in Tripoli, created in the fallout of Libya's civil war. In 2011, the UN Security Council approved an American proposal to create a non-fly zone over Libya on ostensibly humanitarian groups, amid growing conflict between rebels and government forces under Libyan leader Muammar Gaddafi. NATO would immediately launch a bombing campaign against the government, while the US and UK navies blockade the Libyan coast. Gaddafi was gruesomely killed by rebels in a roadside execution in October 2011, prompting years of armed conflict between multiple rival factions. Yeah, poor Libya, isn't it? I don't even remember so well 2011. But you know, that shows how Russia it was weak back then. That, I guess, Libya was one of the biggest mistakes of Russia, or maybe they just could help them. But anyway, Libya was a great massacre from NATO and the imperialism. And this news is nice because show how Libya is have no future in Libya, you know, no future forever, just because of imperialism destruction. I'm gonna watch another news about Libya. Libya. Yeah, NATO. Look, this is. I guess this is gonna be one of the last news I will read. NATO bombed Libya. Oh yeah, this is my very last. I have nothing to say because I have no time for. Have no time for nothing, but NATO bombed Libya to protect civilians. Quote, protect civilians. 12 years ago, this led to thousands of deaths and a country in ruins. The Western war machine only served its own interests in destroying a nation that could liberate Africa. Yeah, this is a great news, but it's a large news, but I have no time for this. This was from Moussa Ibrahim, and this is all true. Muammar Gaddafi was a truly nationalist from Africa. Is Muammar Gaddafi a Che Guevara of Africa? This is a terrible world. Well, they destroyed Libya. Poor Libya. I'm glad that I don't have kids, because what I'm gonna tell him about Libya, this absolute disaster. This world is a shame. I don't know. Like our civilization is a full lie. Is an absolutely lie.